Once upon a time, in a quiet little village surrounded by rolling green hills, there lived a poor farmer named Armon and his kind but worried wife. Lila, they owned a small wooden house, a few hens, a cow, and one white goose. Every morning Armon would rise before the sun, take his tools, and walk to his small patch of land to work. He ploughed, planted, and harvested all by himself. But no matter how hard he worked, the crops were small, and the money he earned was barely enough to buy food for the week. At night, Armon would sigh, "If only I had a little more luck. Maybe we wouldn't have to live like this forever." Leela would smile softly and say, "We have food, a home, and each other. That is still something to be thankful for." But deep down, Armon wished for more. One early morning, as the sun rose over the hills and filled the barn with a golden glow, Armon went to feed his animals. He threw seeds for the hens and patted the goose gently. But when he looked under her nest, his eyes widened in disbelief. There, resting in the straw, was a shining golden egg, smooth, heavy, and glowing in the sunlight. He picked it up carefully, his hands trembling. "Lila, come quick, you must see this." Lila rushed in and gasped, covering her mouth. "By the heavens, it's pure gold." They jumped around the barn with joy. The next day, when Armon went to check again, there was another golden egg, and then another the next day, and another after that. The couple's life began to change. They sold the eggs in town and bought warm clothes, better tools, and plenty of food. They fixed the roof, painted the house, and even helped some of their neighbors. Everyone in the village began to admire them. But after some time, the farmer's heart began to change. He no longer smiled as much. He started counting money late into the night and dreaming of becoming the richest man in the country. One evening, he sat by the fire and said, "Why should I wait for one egg each day? If I cut the goose open, I can take all the gold at once and never work again." Lila looked at him with fear in her eyes. "No, Armon, don't be foolish. The goose gives us enough. Don't let greed blind you." But Armon could no longer hear her voice of reason. The thought of endless gold filled his mind. That night, when everyone was asleep, Armon crept out to the barn with a knife in his hand. The moonlight shimmered on the golden feathers of the sleeping goose. For a moment, his heart hesitated, but his greed was stronger. He whispered, "This will make us rich forever." And with one quick motion, he ended the poor goose's life. But when he looked inside, there was nothing. No gold, no treasure, only a lifeless bird that had once brought them happiness. Armon dropped the knife and fell to his knees. "What have I done?" When Lila saw what had happened, she began to weep. "You've killed our only blessing. Our greed has taken away everything." The next morning, the sun seemed dimmer. The barn was quiet. No more clucking, no golden glow, no laughter. Days turned into weeks, and soon the couple's money ran out. Without the golden eggs, they returned to the life they had before, working hard from sunrise to sunset just to get by. But they had changed. Armin no longer complained. Every evening he sat by the fire, looked at his wife, and said softly, "I had everything I needed, but I wanted too much. I will never make that mistake again." And from that day forward, though they remained poor, their hearts were full of peace and gratitude. Moral greed can destroy the very source of your happiness and fortune. Be grateful for what you have, and your life will always be rich.